tell you about my city, a little town where I'm from, where everybody's southern raised, just as good as they come. Backwoods and Macioke and mud holes, and back then we only ate what the farm grow. Man, I miss some days how we played on them dirt roads, and out of towners came with respect, cause they know we all close. Yeah, Southern pride, toting gun folks. Welcome to my city, I-75 South, just north of Live Oak.
I'm from a city called Austin, Georgia, right on the border of Florida. I was raised on these dirt roads, mud tires, spin backwoods when we ride this small town living, yeah. Now welcome to my city, downtown, 229, turn it up so they can hear it loud. We get it up with big trucks and heavy G's, pretty girls with moonshine and whiskey.
It's nothing like our dirt roads, you can bet that, son. I'm from a city, by any means, we gon' protect our guns. I hang with the rednecks and geeks. We get up in big trucks in the backwoods like Indians and teepees. It's the home of the mighty, mighty Vikings. Wildcats, blazing, Titletown license winners. Pretty girls with country grammar. When I say about Austin, Georgia, I ain't talking about Atlanta. This a different type of city, where the woods are pretty, but get gritty. You hear me? What you know about that 229? You can find us on the Florida, Georgia line, where I reside.
I'm from a city called Austin, Georgia, right on the border of Florida. I was raised on these dirt roads, mud tires, spin backwoods when we ride this small town living, yeah. Now welcome to my city, downtown, 229, turn it up so they can hear it loud. We get it up with big trucks and heavy G's, pretty girls with moonshine and whiskey. Moonshine and whiskey.
Some folks really don't understand how important it is and never forget where you came from. You know, when I say Lowndes County, man, I mean Lowndes County.
I'm from a city called Austin, Georgia, right on the border of Florida. I was raised on these dirt roads, mud tires, spin backwoods when we ride this small town living, yeah. Now welcome to my city, downtown, 229, turn it up so they can hear it loud. We get it up with big trucks and heavy G's, pretty girls with moonshine and whiskey.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 229. Welcome to the Viking Nation Live. I am your host, Larry Godwin. You guys know me by now, and I know you, and that's what makes the world go round. That's what makes this community so special. Love it. Love this community. One of the things I like about this community is this ability for us to come together on Thursday night, put aside our political differences, our socioeconomic differences, and talk about the things that we love the best or the most, that we all share in common. And that is the love for Lowndes athletics, Lowndes football, baseball, basketball, you name it. We love it if it's got the Lowndes emblem all over it. And that's what we're all about. But keep in mind that during this time, during the off season, we also talk about other programs as well. So I want to send some love out there to all you other fans, super fans of other programs out there. So feel free to tune in on Thursday nights. Give us your thoughts. Let us know what's happening in your community, because that's what we are. We're a community-based show. And let's just face it. We're all in this together. Regardless of what your political stripes are, we are all on this big blue marble together. And so we might as well talk about some high school football to pass the time. So good evening to Brian Spray, man. I appreciate you, brother. Good evening to Claudia, all you other, I was going to say Hulkamaniacs. I mean, that dates me, doesn't it? That dates me back to the 80s, early 90s, when we all used to watch WWF wrestling. And I admit it, I was a Hulkamaniac. I love me some Hulk Hogan. Who didn't back then? But that's not the proper thing to talk about tonight. We're talking about Lowndes athletics. We're talking about all kinds of sports related stuff going on in our communities. And I got to admit it, guys, I am just mentally tired from all the other distractions that we've been talking about this week. Started last week, going into this week, and quite frankly, I'm just tired of talking about all that other stuff. And that stuff will take care of itself. All the political things that's going on in our community will take care of itself. So I wanted to go ahead and get that out there because some of you started talking about that last week on our White Oak Investment feed or comment line. And I just want to avoid that this week. That this venue, this show is not the proper place for political discussions, that kind of stuff. Let's focus, if you will, guys. Let's just focus on Lowndes Athletics because there's plenty to talk about. Brian Spray, I love the way you think, brother. Viking maniacs. Georgia coach trainer said LG for Board of Education. That this is the last, I guess, political part of this show. Okay. Just because Georgia coach trainer said that. Honestly, Coach Trainer, I seriously considered that. I really did. And I came this close to deciding to run for Board of Education. But I've got a pretty good representative now in Eddie Smith, right? And if someone challenges Eddie in the future, then and they're also someone that I know that I'll seriously consider them as well. But as long as my district is being represented well, then I'm not gonna challenge that person. That's just the way I see about it. That's just the way I think. But stay tuned because there could be some other announcements in the near future when it comes to political office. So stay tuned. That's all I'll say about that. Hey, with that said, let me go ahead and welcome in Lowndes super fan Chase Garnta. How you doing, Chase? You're on mute, my brother.
There we go. Is that better?
That's much better, man. Much better. You had a good week. It looks like you are you out of practice or something?
No, but we were at the gym.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, man, can't let these young guys have all the glory.
I hear you, man. Hey, listen, I'm going to do a quick rundown of our sponsors. So I'm going to take you off the screen so I can go ahead and give all these sponsors some love. Okay.
All right.
Guys, you know our sponsors by now. Pepsi of Valdosta. Thank you so much to Doyer Deloach. Pepsi, Mountain Dew, Rockstar, Mountain Dew Energy, Mountain Dew Spark, the new Starry drink, limited lime drink that's out in your local retail stores now. I don't know. What do you think about those drinks? I love them, man. I love them. Now, I got to admit, I don't love every drink on the screen because I'm not a big energy drink kind of guy. I've tried other energy drinks in the past, and it's just I'm naturally wired already, Chase, and I just don't need any more artificial wiring, if you will. But for a lot of other people, that's their cup of tea. So if you have the need for energy drinks, Rockstar, Mountain Dew Energy, Mountain Dew Spark. Now, I do love me some Mountain Dew Spark. Can't lie there. So we want to thank Pepsi of Valdosta. We want to thank White Oak Investment. Kyle Conger, I just actually talked to him earlier today. We were talking about my portfolio. We're talking about some other things moving forward. Had some discretionary money and called him up and said, hey, I don't want to necessarily put it in the market now because of the fluctuation. But I don't want to park it in a saving account. What do I need to do to at least earn some return? And he gave me a pretty good idea. And so that's what we're doing full speed ahead. Going to earn me about 4% interest, that kind of stuff. So, but hey, it's nothing. It beats nothing, and it beats losing money. So we're going to park some cash there. But I wouldn't have figured that out on my own. That's why I hire a guy like Kyle Conger at White Oak Investment. So if you have a need, please give him a call. If you have a need for custom shades and blinds, this guy, Tim Neesmith, is your guy. Local hometown kid, Lowndes graduate. He is conquering the world as far as making homes beautiful with his custom shades and blinds. Shade of Perfection. Tim Neesmith, Stickman, we thank you so much. 229-251-3479. We also want to thank these guys. I almost called them knuckleheads, but they're not knuckleheads. They're personal friends of mine. The Migraine and Spine Clinic of Valdosta. Josh Batson and Justin Haskin. They provide a variety of migraine and back pain treatments. They are the certified headache medicine specialist. So give these guys a call if you have a need for that service. I want to thank Matthew Godwin at Verizon Wireless on Perimeter Road. If you have a need for iPhones, Androids, accessories, small business accounts, Matthew can help you out. One of our newest sponsors, Chandler Kudik, he owns a company called AquaWorks Pool Company, another Lowndes County kid, Lowndes High graduate. We want to thank Chandler for starting this company not too long ago, but he is growing by leaps and bounds, and you guys are a big part of that. If you have a need for his service, give him a shout at 229-415-0752. Listen, March is quickly running out. You got a week left for this special, and that is Chandler's already committed to that. If you sign up for his pool cleaning service, he'll give you a month free. You can't beat that. But he's got some other ideas that are very innovative in the pool cleaning for you DIYers, do it yourself guys. Chandler can also help you out. So give him a call, AquaWorks Pool Company. And make sure you tell him LG sent you. We also want to thank, longtime viewer of the show. That's Tony Green and his partner, Trey Hatcher. We want to thank Imperio Auto Sales for coming on board as a sponsor of the Viking Nation Live. They've got 2 locations to help you for your auto needs, and that's 1410 North Ashley Street and 1600 Baytree Road. Give Tony and Trey a call if you have the need for a new car, actually a new or used car, I believe. And we want to thank my buddy, Steve Nichols, Freedom with Steve Nichols. Now we're not going to talk about all the political stuff on this show, but if that's your jazz, if that jazzes you up first thing in the morning, I really need to change this on the screen. The show is actually Monday through Friday, 6 to 8 a.m. And he has been all over this Lowndes County superintendent coverage, that kind of stuff. So he was fired up this morning. Tomorrow he'll probably be talking about that as well. And, I like that show because, Steve gives his opinion. He's got callers that call in that may have a different opinion. I called in yesterday morning and was giving my thoughts on that whole thing, trying to be fair, balance both ways and present both sides of the argument, that kind of stuff. That's that kind of show. So if you like to talk about politics, Freedom with Steve Nichols, check him out on his new website, freedomnetworks.com. Okay, that is going to do it for our sponsors. We've got many more on the way. They're just not quite signed up yet. So when that happens, I'll let you know. Alan Clanton, before we get into the discussion, let me bring Chase back on. Alan Clanton's got a question. He says, is the schedule not out yet? Alan, the answer is no. It's not quite out yet. We are expecting it soon because normally this time of year, around March, the March timeframe, is when all the schools report them to their schedules to the GHSA. So we are expecting that really literally any time now. Now, the other schedule is spring practice, which is right around the corner.
Yeah.
And that's going to start May the 4th, right? So May the 4th be with you. You see what I did there, Chase? Your screen froze up, man. Let me take you off the screen because the screen froze up. So Brian Spray, Viking Maniacs, Mark Dixon says, we are one Lowndes. Absolutely, Mark. Regardless of all this political distraction, we are, the community itself is one Lowndes. And I'm proud to say that because I love this community. Let me see, bring him back. Kenneth Hurst says, hello, LG. Greg Maddox is watching. Thank you so much, Greg, for watching. Let's get into some of the topics of the show tonight. Chase, before we get into this, now Chase, I really debated whether or not to do this next segment or not. So I called a buddy of mine. Yeah, you're starting to shake your head already. You know how I love to have a good time on this show. So I've been planning to do this for several weeks now, like 4 or 5 weeks. And this is what led up to this. But because the timing of some of the political stuff that's been going on in this community, I thought, should I even do this? Is it sending the wrong message? Whatever. But I'm going to keep with my schedule, my predefined schedule. So I called a buddy of mine yesterday. I said, man, I've got this dilemma. I've been planning on doing this kind of humorous bit on the Viking Nation show. And this is what I'm thinking about doing, but because of the political stuff that's going on now, should I even go down this road? I don't want people to read too much into this. It was just me trying to have a good time. And so Chase, you are on the edge of your seat. So Chase, here's what happened. About a month ago, a little over a month ago, about 5-6 weeks ago, something like that. I took a business trip because our company does a national meeting every year. And we did our national meeting in Austin, Texas, earlier this year, just a few weeks ago. And because we were in Texas, hey, that's a lot better. That's a lot better view. Because we were in Texas, they treated us one night. I was out there 4 or 5 nights. So they treated us one night to a really nice dinner. And so they had a live band there. And one of the things they did, Chase, because we were in Austin, they brought in this cowboy hat vending company.
Yeah.
And they basically custom fit all of the reps, including myself, for our old cowboy hat. Right. And so you see where I'm going with this. So I was going to show you the cowboy hat tonight on the show that I got fitted for. But then I came home and it's like, wait a minute, I already have a cowboy hat. So I'm going to show you both hats tonight. And guys, please don't read anything. I know how this looks because of the timing and all that stuff. So here's my proof of me in Austin, Texas, Michael Broadwater says, put the hat on. Michael Broadwater always trying to get me in trouble. So here's a picture of me at my meeting out in Austin and the vending company that was fitting us for all these hats. So check out all the hats to the left there. There's their young lady that's with the vendor that was helping everybody get fitted. And that is the finished product. And you see the live band behind me. And so, listen, I'm going to take that off the screen now.
I can get behind that.
So Chase, what do you think about the hat? Am I a cowboy hat kind of guy?
Hey, man, cowboy hats fit everybody. I don't think cowboy hats really have to have that type of, you got to be this, you got to be that. I think it's a personal preference and each his own.
So I'm going to actually give Michael Broadwater I'm going to grant his request. I'm going to put the cowboy hat on, but I actually have 2 of them. Because I forgot that I'm not a cowboy hat kind of guy, but I forgot I had one because when my wife and I first got married years ago, we've been married 29 years, but about 20 years ago, a good friend of ours passed away and his wife asked me to be a pallbearer. And he was a good country boy, so she wanted all the pallbearers to wear jeans, cowboy boots, and a cowboy hat. And I didn't own any of those things. So I went out and bought all that stuff, and I've worn that hat like twice. So I'm going to wear both of them for you tonight. Greg Maddox says, stick with the Viking cap. Well, you see that right up there, right? So here's hat number 1. What you think? So this is my hat that I got fitted for out in Austin, Texas. So anyway, what do you think, man? Cowboy Larry. I don't look like Woody from Toy Story, do I? That was my biggest fear, to look like a cartoon character.
No, you don't. No.
All right. So that's hat number 1. That's the good guy hat. My hat number 2, the one I bought years ago, I think this fits more of my personality. How about that?
Yeah,
I can pull that off, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So this is like my yin and yang. This is my, both hats reflect 2 sides of my personality. That's the way I see it. So I'm going to leave my hat on for the rest of the show and hide my, my beautiful hair. Yeah. I'm just kidding. I've got 52-year-old hair that's thinning. And my daughter tells me all the time, Dad, I can see your scalp now. It's like, no, duh. It's like, I'm 52 years old. We're supposed to start losing our hair, right?
Exactly.
Now, Michael Broadwater. Now, Sharon Hemp says the same thing. Who is Billy Jack? You look like Billy Jack in the black. Who's Billy Jack?
You really don't know who Billy Jack is?
I don't.
How is it that I'm younger than you, and I know who Billy Jack is.
I don't know,
Billy
man.
Jack there was some movies that made way back in, I think it was back in the late 70s, early 80s. They were he was kind of Chuck Norris before Chuck Norris, maybe.
I got you. All right. Well, listen, enough about my cowboy hat. So we got some things to talk about tonight. One of the things that we're going to do, Brian Sprague, you guys are giving me a credit. Brian's face says every rebel needs a good cowboy hat. Absolutely. Hey, mate, maybe I'll start wearing this on Friday nights. You never know. Guys, if you want to take part in the shenanigans tonight, here's the call-in line. The lines are wide open on the Migraine and Spine Clinic of Valdosta comment line, or not comment line. I get all these lines mixed up on the hotline. That number is 229-469-1205. So all the phone lines, all 20 phone lines are open and ready and waiting for you guys to join the fun tonight. Hey, Chase, last week we started a series of having Lowndes assistant coaches on the show. So last week we had Fred Mitchell. He did a fantastic job. Man, that guy, full of energy, super exciting, committed to the program. I don't know if you had a chance to watch that, but Fred Mitchell is the real deal. He is the college recruiting coordinator for Lowndes High now. And you can already tell the presence and the difference that he's making with that program, with all the different offers that our student athletes are getting now.
Oh, 100%. I like what he's doing. I like the fact that he's getting these kids' names out there, pictures and film of them and everything like that, and pushing these kids in the right direction, which is something
That's
I feel
right.
sorely needed.
That's right.
For a long time.
Chase, I'm gonna we're having some issues with your audio. It's breaking in and out, so I'm gonna take you off the screen. Will you disconnect and then reconnect? Maybe we'll get a better signal. All right. So while Chase is doing that, hopefully we'll get a better signal there. So last week we had Fred Mitchell. I was hoping to get Ashley Anders, our but second-year defensive coordinator for Lowndes, on the show tonight. But a scheduling conflict, he couldn't make it tonight. So we're hoping to have him on the show next week. And here are a list of other assistant coaches that are going to have agreed to appear on the show at a later date. But we're going to try to have them in the next couple of months, all these different assistant coaches. So we're going to have, of course, Ashley Anders, the defensive coordinator for Lowndes. We're going to have Matthew Garris, the new linebacker coach. And some of these guys, Adam Carter has brought in. Some of these guys, you already recognize the names. They've been here for a while. So Matthew Garris, linebacker coach. Terry Quinn, the defensive back coach. Corey McCullough, special teams. We're going to have Don Bailey, the offensive coordinator. Christopher Reese, the assistant head coach. John David Sellers, the wide receivers coach. And I think was Jamel Dimps going to be on here too? I can't remember, but I got to go back and look at the list that Adam Carter sent me of all the coaches he wanted to come onto the show. I want to say that Jamel Dimps was going to be, I can't remember, but anyway, if he's on that list, then we'll have him as well. So make sure you keep on tuning in during the off season to hear from these assistant coaches, especially the new ones, because when I met with Coach Carter a couple weeks ago, I said, one of my goals is to introduce, especially our new assistant coaches, to the community, because you've seen the announcement on social media, you've seen the name, you may recognize the face, but the majority of Viking Nation, they have no idea who our assistant coaches are, what their background is, what kind of changes they're going to bring to their position players, what do they expect, that kind of stuff. So that's what fans want to hear from. So I was thrilled. That Coach Carter is all about that as well. So I want to thank all these assistant coaches in advance for agreeing to come on to the program. So thank you so much. So we're going to have that over the next several weeks. What I'm going to try to do is try to have not just one coach scheduled every show. I'm going to try to have a couple of coaches so you can hear from a variety of different voices during this off season. Chase, is that any better? Chase, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Much better. We can hear you much better now.
Good.
All right. So here's some things that are happening around the state that we really need to talk about. because a lot of big things now. The first thing here is I'm just going to mention this because it really doesn't affect us. It doesn't affect us at all. But the Corky Kell Classic is being renamed to the Corky Kell Dave Hunter Classic. So it doesn't affect us at all, but it is related to high school football. And the Corky Kell Classic is the premier marquee matchup as far as starting the high school football season. So I just thought it was newsworthy to fill you guys in on that. Now, here's one of the things that I wanted to share with you guys tonight. Jerry O'Neill says, don't forget Smiley. Jerry O'Neill, Smiley is a fixture of the assistant coaching lineup there at Lowndes Football, but I don't think he's been added to the list of assistants to appear on the show. That may change, so stay tuned. We'll see. But he wasn't on the list that Adam Carter sent over. So listen, here's a big deal. I want to go ahead and put this on the screen. So the GHSA is currently discussing a topic called full-time employees as head coaches. So what does that mean? So right now in the state of Georgia, Chase, if you are going to be an assistant coach, if you're going to be a head coach, right, you have to have, well, let me take it back, because assistant coach, you can be a community coach without a teaching certificate. But most of your assistant coaches have teaching certificates, and all of your head coaches are required to have their teaching certificate, right? So the GHSA is talking about this topic now. Should they do away with that rule and replace it with this one? If you are a full-time employee of a school system, should you be eligible to become a head coach? Yes. Not just football, for any athletic program, whether it's basketball, baseball, whatever. Yes. And so the debate goes back and forth. So here was just an excerpt of the discussion that was being talked about at the last Board of Trustees meeting. So this is the most prominent part here. So the Board of Trustees held a lengthy discussion on the pros and cons of using full-time school employees as head coaches. Several members pointed out a real shortage of qualified head coaches, and that's really what's driving this, because there's this perception out there among many school systems that they are having trouble finding qualified head coaches. Now, I know we're used to talking about football, but we're talking about other sports as well, like golf, like tennis, like wrestling, all these other athletic programs. Well, some of these school systems are having trouble finding qualified head coaches to head them up. So they go on to say that could possibly result in some sports being discontinued, which is a serious deal. But others presented concerns they and their school districts had about using school employees instead of certified teachers in those positions. So let me open up the discussion. What do you think about that? You think this is a valid topic to be talking about? Are you in favor of it? You think head coaches still should be certificate teachers or what?
No, I'm a big proponent of head coaches not being certified teachers.
So obviously the follow-up question is why?
Why? Because
the system seems to be working now.
In what aspect? Are we talking about locally? Are we talking about statewide? Or are we talking nationally?
Say that again now.
Are we talking locally? Are we talking statewide? Or are we talking nationally?
No, this is statewide.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as what are we comparing? What we're talking about as far as why are we discussing nationally?
Okay, so I think I understand your question. The reason why the GHSA is talking about this is because there is a perception in the state of Georgia. Now, I don't know if that perception is nationwide or not, but I would probably imagine it probably is, because what usually happens at the NFHS, the National Federation of High School Sports, usually trickles down to organizations like the GHSA. So to answer your question, I would probably guess that it's a nationwide debate, but for the purposes of our discussion, we're just talking about Georgia. So
I'm a
listen.
big
You're going to
proponent
answer.
of it.
You're going to answer this. I predict as from a perspective as a person living in Lowndes County, but you got to think that they govern 400 plus schools. So someone in
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Habersham
absolutely.
County, that it affects them too.
As far as what school districts spend per year, look at what they spend per year on paying a head coach of a football program or a basketball program or a baseball program.
Okay.
You're paying them a teacher's salary plus a coaching stipend.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair point.
All right. But you've got other employees out there that don't make half of what a teacher makes or a third of what a teacher makes.
Okay.
That may be a excellent coach, but they don't get that opportunity because they're not a certified teacher. And the reason I'm a proponent of it is because you have guys who are qualified, I say qualified, who would make phenomenal athletic coaches, who would make phenomenal basketball coaches, phenomenal football coaches in these smaller communities that can't maybe afford the bigger name coaches. And you would be able to bring some of those guys in, and let's face it, you're paying them a third of what, quarter of what a lot of these schools are going to pay for a head coach.
Yeah. Now, I understand what you're saying, but if they do adopt a policy like this, and I think they're a long way from adopting this policy, but if they eventually end up adopting this policy, what you're going to see is if someone takes over a football program and they go out and get like maybe an assistant college coach or whatever that wants to try their hand at coaching at the high school level. Let's say they're from the state of South Carolina or Florida, and they're not certificated in Georgia. I don't know. I don't understand the reciprocity or whatever. But if they adopt a policy like this, they can go out and get one of these coaches, bring him in as a coach. Now, when that happens, I understand what you're saying that full-time employees get paid half of what head coach would. But trust me, if they do get hired as a head coach, their salaries are going to go up. I mean, they're not going to be expected to keep the same level of salary.
Yeah, a coaching stipend is based on several different things. From my understanding, it's based on how long you've been there, what your agreed upon stipend is, what your actual job title is, as far as in the athletic department and things like that. But I'm a big proponent of it. Here's why.
Okay.
I don't like the fact that the GHSA can hold a head athletics coach basically. I don't want to say hostage. Hostage is not the right word.
Yeah.
Can hold them at bay, I guess, from actually doing a jam up job by holding their teaching certificate over their head. Like, if you do anything we don't want you to do, we're just going to pull your certificate. You can no longer coach.
Well, I don't know if that's really a big concern because there's no evidence that kind of stuff happens. I mean, the only reason they
Example: see Rush Prost.
Well,
I mean,
no. The PSC did not hold his teaching certificate over his head, and no. He did something. I mean, we're not going to get in that debate, but he did something that warranted for them to pull that. So that's not something they hold over someone's head that says if you don't act a certain way or if you don't coach a certain way. No. But I think though, it should be a discussion taken seriously, because especially if you're a smaller community where you don't have high qualified head coaches that may not want to go. South Georgia is a little bit different. People love living in the South, but if you take a look at some of these programs, and if you are required to hire a coach that has a teaching certificate, then you limit this. So if you're a smaller school, and let's say you don't have the funds to go out and so now you can, with a policy like this, you could potentially go find someone that's qualified to be a head coach, may not have a teaching certificate, to bring them to a small rural community like a Berrien County or an Adel or Homerville or something like that.
Yeah, see, that's the ones I'm talking about. That's the communities I'm talking about. The small, little bitty communities that. But now, Lowndes, I think it was either Lowndes or Colquitt played a team last year. Their head coach and their coaching staff as a whole was not school employees.
Oh, is that
They
right?
were school. They were employed to coach football. They got a little bit of money every year just to coach football.
It must have been an out-of-state school. Was it one of the Florida schools? Couldn't
It
have
was
been a
a
Georgia
Florida
school.
school.
Yeah, it could have
No,
been a
it was a
Georgia
Florida
school.
school.
I got you. Okay.
Florida school. And I'm all for that policy.
Well, it's debatable. So they are talking about it now, and it's good to see that they're at least having the debate. I'm really not on one side or the other. I can be probably persuaded either way, but I got to hear all the arguments first. I really haven't spent enough time thinking about the situation. I will say that the first priority of a head coach should always be, especially at high school level, it should always be that of an educator. Right. And so if that is the number one priority, I see you making that face, but if that's the number one priority, because they're usually teaching something, whether it's life skills or teaching weightlifting or track or whatever, they're still educators first.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I mean,
so my first thought is, yeah, you probably do need to require them to have a teaching certificate. Now, Jason, I'm not answering that question. I'm not answering that question. So anyway, all right, let's move on to the second topic. And I think this is going to be an interesting one. And that is instant replay is almost here. So this is being discussed at the GHSA level as well. Now, it's getting so serious, so close that they're starting to talk about some of the details. And this was expected, okay? So what does it look like? It looks like they're going to implement this at the state championship games, right? When it goes back to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But what does that look like? So here are some of the questions they're asking and discussing out loud now. They're legitimate questions. What plays are eligible for review? Should it be every play? Or should it be scoring plays? Should it be critical plays? If it's critical plays, who defines what critical plays are? So they got to work out some of those issues. What personnel is going to review plays? Is it going to be the white hat? You know, you see them down in college or you see them in the pros. The white hat comes over and watches a video screen or an iPad screen or whatever in conjunction with an official in the booth. So they got to work out all those details. What personnel is going to review the plays? And then what are the additional costs for this personnel and the equipment? Because obviously they're going to need new equipment.
Well, see, I don't think that it should be an every game replay. I think it just needs to be solely on the state championship level.
Yeah, that's what they're talking about.
Last year.
Yeah, that's what they're talking about. They're only going to do this at the state championship game. But I guess the biggest question they've got to answer is which plays are going to be eligible during the state championship game.
I think me personally, I think it's got to be anything like targeting or a scoring play or something that's extremely questionable. Okay. Maybe let's say that let's say there's a throw to the sideline and nobody got a really good look at it.
Gotcha. Okay.
The white hat should be able to call everybody together. Did anybody get a good look at it? Nope. Radio up to the booth. Hey, I need to see that last throw.
Here's the way I think they should do it. I think they should give each head coach one challenge per half. And then they should challenge scoring plays in addition to that. What do you think about that?
Scoring plays should be automatically reviewed by somebody in the booth, especially at state championship games, because especially after that controversy last year. Now, granted, I realize that at that point you're trying to take the human aspect out of it, but at the same time, you're talking about championship game. You're talking about the thing that these kids work all season long for, and it comes down to a bad call.
That's right. That's right.
So you want to make sure, especially at that level, especially in that game, I feel like you have to get that call right. And I feel like the only way you're going to do that is to take the human element out of it.
That's right. So listen, this cowboy hat is making my head itch because I'm not used to it. So I'm putting back on my Stetson hat. And Chase, just for you, my man, I wasn't referring to a Stetson cowboy hat. I was referring to Stetson Bennett. Go Dogs. Now, there are some good questions about this. Jason Anderson's got before we go any further, Georgia coach trainer says that we will have a new assistant coach pending board approval. His name is Avery Jernigan, a graduate of the Auburn Tigers. Okay. Coach trainer, what position is he going to coach? I appreciate you keeping us filled in on that. So, Greg Maddox has an interesting take on this. Let me go ahead and take that down. All right. So he says they could use the Falcons equipment and have one extra official in the press box. Yeah. Yep, I mean, 100%. If we're talking about Mercedes-Benz, Greg got a point. They already have the equipment in place, but here's the big but. And this is probably what the GHSA is talking about. We've got to provide who is going to run that replay system. Obviously it's got to be someone that's trained on that equipment, right? So if that personnel comes from the Falcons, obviously you're going to have to pay them. Or does the GHSA provide someone to use that equipment? And if so, do they now have to lease that equipment from Mercedes-Benz Stadium to use it that night?
I have a rebuttal to that.
Okay.
All right. We're already in the Mercedes-Benz. We're using the facilities. They're already running replay on the video boards.
Yeah.
So obviously they're already recording and running replays on the video boards. So somebody's already doing that. Somebody's already there running the sound system. Somebody's already there running the lights. You're already paying all these people that are already doing these jobs. You're just adding a little more to it. Them sitting there for an extra 20 minutes of the game playing twiddlywinks with manhole covers, they have to punch a few buttons, pull up a few replays.
I understand, Ben, but everybody wants to get paid. I'm just telling you. So if you're going to put extra duties on them, somebody's going to listen. We live in a society. You know this well enough. I think you know this. I'm 100% certain you know it. Everybody wants a check, right?
No, I disagree. Everybody wants
no.
Yes.
That's why they even have a commercial, man. I don't need a wreck. I need a check.
Yeah. Well, everyone wants to pay as little as possible for everything.
That's right. Listen, Jason Anderson, Lowndes County's own funny man. He is the comedian designate for Lowndes County. I don't know if you follow Jason Anderson on Facebook. One of the funniest guys you will ever meet. I'm serious, Jason. Funny guy. He really is. He says, Larry, you look like Larry Imus. He says, basically, you're Larry Imus. He's referring to Don Imus, the longtime radio show host up in, I think it's New York. Don Imus in the morning or something like that.
Yeah.
So this hat does look like the one that Don Imus wears. That's a good catch right there.
He makes a good point.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see where the replay thing goes. I mean, there's kinks they got to work out just like in everything else, but I'm interested to see how far the GHSA is willing to take it.
Yeah.
I'd like to see cameras and at least Lowndes be on the NFHS network mainly for our older fans that probably can't make it to every game anymore.
I'm telling you right now, that ain't happening.
Oh, I know, but I would like to see it.
But you know what is, I think, coming to Lowndes? Electronic tickets. I think that is coming through GoFan. I think Lowndes is looking at implementing the GoFan system for electronic tickets. I don't know if they're going to do it for this upcoming season, but it is in serious discussion. I can tell you that. So I think it's well overdue. I like the idea. Now they're going to have to work out some issues like how do they handle season tickets? I honestly, I wouldn't even put season tickets as part of the GoFan, that kind of stuff. So, Jason, I think your wish is going to happen. I just don't know when they're going to implement it. So, electronic tickets, I'm 95% sure it's coming to Lowndes in the near future. So, there we go. Now, you do have to keep in mind that, Jason, you and I are going to be season ticket holders. So, that's probably not going to affect us, I don't think, because using GoFan, they usually do charge a fee on top of the regular ticket cost. So I see this as basically, one-off tickets for especially guests visiting, coming. Those that are non-ticket season ticket holders, probably very beneficial to them. So we'll have to see. Now, but I am being told that they are seriously looking at that, and it's probably going to be implemented in the very, very near future. So Coach Trainer says, I hate GoFan, especially for our older fans. Now, Coach Trainer, I don't think this is going to be mandatory. They're still going to sell paper tickets. This is just for those that want to use GoFan. That's my belief anyway. I think that's what they're talking about. Yeah. So anyway, that's coming. That's coming. All right. So a couple other things that we want to talk about. Chase, I got to answer your question right here. Coach Trainers, the assistant coach that Trainer was just talking about that is coming from Auburn. He played center for Auburn, so he is probably an offensive line coach. That would be my assumption. Anyway,
didn't we just get a new O-line coach though?
What's that now?
Didn't we just get a new O-line coach like a month ago?
I cannot remember. I got a 52-year-old brain, man. I've got a serious case of sometimers. Sometimes it comes and sometimes it goes.
Well, yeah.
So I'm not sure. I'm just going to wait for the official announcement. So I'll check in.
Announcement.
Yeah, I'll check into it in the next couple of days, and hopefully I'll have something to report next week. Travis Hart says I think we did. So maybe so. Okay, so here's the other thing. So the GHSA has been very, very busy during the off season. Here's the next thing they were talking about. We talked about this on the show 2-3 weeks ago, but now it's officially being talked about at the GHSA. And Chase, this is going to happen, this next topic. And that is name, image, and likeness. What the GHSA was talking about, an excerpt that I saw in the Board of Trustees meeting minutes, was they reported more than 20 states already have approved NIL at the high school level, not college. They're talking about high school. So more than 20 states have approved NIL already at the high school level. And Georgia is very, very close to doing this. They're actually prepared to move forward in the very near future. They're actually going to send a proposal to the full state executive committee, I think in the spring meeting coming up in April. So we're very close to having NIL. What's that going to look like? We don't know. We don't know the details yet.
I don't like it.
But what's it going to look like? Here's what I think it's going to look like. It's basically I think they're going to treat this like any other kid that has a job, like a part-time job, because now you're, instead of slinging hash or, hanging out of a drive-through window at Zacadoo's, whatever, you're just going to be hired by a local company to promote their brand, whether it's a car dealership or Zacadoo's, whatever. They're just going to pay them to represent or promote their product. Now, how widespread is it going to be at the high school level? Who knows? As a consumer in the local community, am I going to be swayed to go buy a car from Cass Birch versus Valdosta Toyota because one of them has a Lowndes football player promoting their cars? No, I'm going to look for the best car for my family. Right? But that is an example of what could happen at the local level. How big is it going to be? I don't know. But I really, really hope the GHSA has some ironclad rules put in place to prevent booster clubs from basically hijacking this thing. Because we're opening up a can of worms at the high school level, man, especially if we allow booster clubs all over the state, basically turning this into a recruiting tool. That's what I'm afraid of that might happen. Yeah, Jason Anderson,
Yeah, see,
he's thinking along the same lines. He said NIL should help our effort to relocate elite athletes to Lowndes County. Then a big smiley face. But that's,
Look,
man, that's the first thing that comes to mind.
Here's the thing with NIL with me.
Okay.
Yeah, but here's the thing with NIL with me. All right. I was fine with playing college players. Okay.
Yeah.
I really was. But put a cap on it. You can't just let these kids run wild and make millions in college. Because then it becomes a recruiting tool. Then it becomes, well, what can you do for me here versus what they can do for me there? Now it's a recruiting tool. Yeah, they may not say it's a recruiting tool, but let's be realistic. It is. Okay. At the high school level, it's going to get real bad real fast. I mean, and how are you going to enforce it? You're going to put a cap on it, or you're going to say, well, they can't make more than X number of dollars a month.
Yeah. So let me
there's do things selling stuff online and
you're exactly right.
Go ahead.
So that's why they've got to approach this thing with very, very carefully. That's the way I'll put it. But if they're not forward enough thinking to think about some of the repercussions, let me tell you what I'm talking about. Let's say an athlete at Lowndes or Colquitt is looking at several different colleges. Okay. And some of those colleges are Auburn, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Texas A&M. Just pick your elite college. Every one of those elite colleges already have something called a collective for NIL, right?
Yeah.
So it's basically a club that collects money to pay NIL deals for their college athletes. Now, if we are not careful, I can see a situation where these collectives in the state start now approaching these local booster clubs and saying, listen, if you will help get this kid to the University of Georgia, if you will help get this kid to the University of Alabama, we will make a hefty donation to your local booster club.
Yeah.
And they route it through the kid.
Yeah, but I think that oh man, I see what you're saying. I really, really do. But I want to say that the NCAA would probably crack down on that pretty hard.
No, they won't. I'm telling you, man, the NIL landscape at the college level is the wild, wild west. There are no rules in place. None. Now, if they decide not to go through booster clubs, they can go directly to the kid. They could say, listen, if you will consider coming to the University of Georgia, right, or the University of Alabama, while you're in high school, we will contact the local car dealership and have them hire you as their spokesperson while you're in high school, and we'll go ahead and pay you. What rule is out there to stop that?
There's probably really not one. And Jason Anderson makes a great point. Your poor small town kids from rural communities, you institute NIL, and you're going to see an influx of high, unfortunately, let's put it like it is, high caliber elite athletes into your big time programs. Grayson, Buford, Colquitt, your big time programs are going to be flooded with athletes coming from small towns where they know they can get big markets.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's just the facts. I mean, and unfortunately, as long as nobody contacts that kid, his parents just up and move him, it's all 100% legal.
Yeah, let's just say my alma mater, Berrien County. They've got a kid that is being recruited by just about everybody. Josiah Davis, I think is his name. He set a national record last year, not national record, but he tied the national record and set a state of Georgia record for the most number of touchdown kickoff returns.
Yeah.
State record last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think he returned like 8 or 9 kicks for touchdowns last year. Phenomenal year. Being recruited by everybody. Mm-hmm. So let's say NIL passes. Let's say NIL passes. Okay. And so all of a sudden you've got I keep picking on dealerships. You can pick anybody really, any company based in Lowndes County that is a big Lowndes Vikings fan. And so now they go to this kid in Berrien County and say, listen, if you come to Lowndes County, we'll go ahead and set you up with an NIL deal and let you go ahead and finish out your career at Lowndes, and we'll pay you to do that through NIL. As long as that business is not connected with the booster club, there's no problem.
Yeah.
So that is the can of worms that I'm afraid of.
I think it's a slippery slope that honestly, Larry, I just think needs to stay away from high school, man. I really do.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, usually I'm a proponent of stuff like that, but I just, at the high school level, I just can't, because fortunately, I didn't mean to say unfortunately, but fortunately, at the high school level, these kids are still student athletes. They are students first. They go to school all day long. They're students at home. We're talking about kids as young as 14 years old.
Right.
I mean, you can't. I mean, now it becomes a parent game, and you've got parents involved, and it's just, I think it's a slippery slope, and I think it's a disaster. Not only that, think of the nightmare it's going to create for head coaches. I mean, you got to constantly worry. I mean, honestly, I think every major program head coach across the state should be absolutely adamant that this can't happen.
That's right.
I mean, they should be standing on top of their desks, beating on a freaking gavel with something. I mean, just, this can't. You're going to ruin the sport.
Yep.
I mean, I'm sorry, you just are. I mean, I get it. It's a money-driven game. But at this level, you cannot drive it about money. It has to be about community. It has to be about the kids. It has to be about the pride of the school. You know, I remember back when, the 80s and 90s, you took pride in being a fan of Lowndes. You took pride in putting on a Lowndes jersey and a silver bullet helmet. You took pride in putting on that black and gold across town. It didn't matter. You were suiting up for this community. Unfortunately, it's got to the point where it's, what can you do for me, instead of putting on for the city, putting on for the community, putting on for your town.
Yeah.
It's got to get back to that.
We've seen the change in the metro Atlanta area with that for years. And what happens in Atlanta basically filters down to the rest of the state. So we just have a different crop of younger athletes nowadays that really wasn't raised like you and I were raised. Community involvement, that kind of stuff. We still have some of that, but speaking to your concern, I'm afraid that community spirit is dwindling even as we speak. Shoot, man, it's dwindling among people our age, people that have grown up and taught to love our communities and have strong ties. And we see it starting to dissipate at our age group as well. It's a shame, man. It really is.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because it's become so much about getting, and it's a good thing that it's become about getting to the next level, because I mean, you want to teach these kids to not let football use you, to learn to use football to get where you want to be. But at the same, you can accomplish getting to where you want to be and using football to get where you want to be, but you can still be all about that name right there. You can still be all about that black and gold across town. You can still be all about them snorting pigs to the west of us. You can still be all about the Rams north of us. You can be about the Rebels and the Bulldogs and the Hornets and everything else, and still use football to get you an education. I think it falls a lot back on the parents. Are the parents not driving home the community spirit?
Yep.
I mean,
right.
I don't know.
Well, guys, if you're just now tuning in to the Viking Nation Live, we've got a few minutes left in the show. I want to make sure I would thank our sponsors again. Pepsi of Valdosta, A Shade of Perfection, the Migraine and Spine Clinic of Valdosta. Thank you to Kyle Conger at White Oak Investment, to Verizon Wireless on Perimeter Road. Matthew Godwin, good friend of mine. He's my big buddy. So go see him when you have your a need for iPhones and Androids. Freedom with Steve Nichols, Aqua Works Pool Company, and Imperial Auto Sales, and many more to come right around the corner. So if you are a business out there and you would like to get in on the fun, sponsor our show and declare the value that or at least see the value that we provide to the community. You want to be a part of that? Give me a call. You can send me an email at larrygodwin@msn.com. So anyway, we'll go ahead and get you plugged into our sponsorship packages. Hey, Chase, before we get out of here tonight, speaking of community stuff, we had something that took place a couple days ago. I don't know if you took part in that, but we had a community vote for the renewing the eSplosh tax. And so this is not a debate. It did pass. It did pass.
Oh,
So this is not a debate about, I think a lot of people know where I stand on the SPLOST taxes, but this is not meant to argue one side or the other. I'm just here to report what's going to take place now because this eSplosh passed. In as far as in terms of how does it affect Valdosta High School and how does it affect Lowndes High School? So let me take Lowndes first. So can you see that on the screen?
barely, but
Okay.
I mean, I don't have to.
Okay.
Hold on.
All right.
Yeah, I
So
can see a little better.
okay. So highlighted in blue is the portion that affects the Lowndes County School District. And what I've highlighted and underlined is the one that affects the athletics programs. So here it is. So when this passed, the language says the acquisition, construction, and equipping of new facilities, including 2 new elementary schools. That's a good thing. And here's the part that affects athletics. The addition, renovation, repair, and improvement to existing school buildings, facilities, and grounds, including but not limited to all elementary schools, middle schools, the high school, and the central office complex. Now, that is vaguely written, and that's vaguely written for a reason. It gives them flexibility on what they could use this money on, as long as it falls into the purview of that text there. Okay. But part of that is the buildings, the facilities, and the grounds at the high school. So I know that we've been talking about for a while, well over a year, talking about Lowndes High School building a new football field house. And I still think that's coming. Don't you?
Oh yeah, it's coming.
Yeah. And so that's what we're talking about. Where's that funding going to come from? So it's going to come from sources like the eSplosh. So that's coming. Guys, I don't have a time frame. I've been asked now that the indoor facility has been built, it is complete.
Multi-purpose facility.
I called it an indoor facility. I didn't call it an indoor practice facility because technically it is an indoor facility, right? I purposely don't call it an IPF. It's an indoor facility. Now, someone speaking earlier of that, someone had this, I think they had something the last couple of weeks, actually last month or so, we've been kind of playing around with different nicknames for that indoor facility, right?
Yeah.
So some have talked about some concrete factory, the barn, the warehouse. I think Danny Redshaw, the athletic director at Lowndes, called it the indoor palace. Some people like that. Franklin Webb, I thought, came up with a clever one. I kind of like this. I don't know if it'll stick, but since we're throwing names out there, Franklin Webb says the football team worked in the House of Champions for the first time.
That sounds a lot better. I will give it that. That has a nice zing to it.
So, but that's kind of a long name. House of Champions is kind of a long name, right? So I kind of like the concept, Franklin. We just got to shorten it. We got to condense it because, us fans, we're going to take what's put out there and shorten it. And we'll call it the Lou, or we'll call it the Bays, or whatever, right? So I like the concept. We just got to shorten it down, condense it a little bit. So anyway, okay. So here is Valdosta. The Valdosta school system. So they're going to build in highlighted yellow there, a high school multi-purpose facility. that includes the acquisition, construction, and equipping of a new stadium.
I like.
Does that surprise you when they have a language in there that includes a new stadium?
No, because I mean, as much as I love the concrete palace, we probably need some upgrades.
Well, no, this is Valdosta High School.
Oh, Valdosta High School? That's
Yeah.
because they want to build. That's because they want to build on the current high school property. They don't. I mean, let's be honest. They're tired of busing kids across town.
Sure. So that opens up a can of worms because the longtime Cat fans they're not going to like going away from Bazemore Hyder Stadium. So that's what we're talking about here. Because if I'm reading this correctly, they're not only looking at building a high school multi-purpose facility, which is the indoor facility. They're also looking at acquiring, constructing, and equipping a new stadium. So logically, you wouldn't build a new stadium at one of their middle schools, right? That doesn't make sense. So where would you put the new stadium? At the high school. That's just logical, a logical approach to that. So it looks like Valdosta is headed for having a new stadium, probably on their new high school campus, as well as a new indoor, or in the right terminology, their new multi-purpose facility. Why don't they just call it a ROTC building? Because that's what everybody talks about. So Valdosta is about to build a new ROTC building as well. Listen, man, I'm going to have my fun on the show. That's just the way it is.
Oh yeah, for sure, 100%. But like,
I kind of like
with Valdosta's thing though. I guarantee you. Well, I can't guarantee you, but I feel pretty sure that if Valdosta does construct a new stadium, look for the new litter box dome to be built over there on the Valdosta campus.
Man, shots fired. Our Lounge fans are getting kind of chippy. Coach Strainer says Cat fans don't go to the games anyway, which is probably true. Cat fans don't go to the games anyway. It'll just be Lounge's second stadium.
Look, I went to a Valdosta game. It was the preseason opener. Lounge was playing, and I left a little early and went.
Yeah, I'm losing it again, Chase. So guys, we're getting ready to wind the show down, and we were talking about the SPLOST vote that occurred on this past Tuesday. It looks like both Lowndes and Valdosta is about to get another semi-truckload full of cash to build some of these things. And whether you support SPLOST or you don't. Now, if you're in this audience, and if you kind of jive with the voting statistics, about 70% of you probably do vote, support SPLOST, and about 30 to 35% of you don't support it. And that's cool. We're not here to debate that. But anyway, we're quickly running out of time. That's what we're doing. So anyway, it's been a very, very robust discussion tonight, and appreciate you guys sticking with us. This is Chase says that he had to run anyway, so he'll catch us on next week's show. Hey, thanks, Chase, for doing that. Greg Maddox says Valdosta definitely needs a new stadium. Greg, I'm going to take your word for it. To me, Bazemore Hyder is a pretty nice stadium to me. I'm not a big fan of the visitor side just because, during the Wintersville Classic, when you have that side completely full, those rows are so close together and the seats are so close together that you're literally shoulder to shoulder and your knees are in somebody's back if you're sitting down. And you could very easily get claustrophobic on the visitor side. And the concessions on the visitor side is not very pleasing as well. But other than that, have you ever been on the home side for a Valdosta State game? I mean, it's a pretty nice stadium. I kind of like it. But Franklin Webb says they have lost a lot of the old Cat fans. I think you're right. So, guys, if you're just tuning in, we're getting ready to wind down the show. If you notice my Stetson cowboy hat, it's because you'll have to go back to an early part of the show. I'm not trying to, I guess, I don't know. I'm not trying to make a political statement or anything. It was part of a business trip that I took out to Texas a few weeks ago where I got fitted for a custom, everybody in our company got fitted for a custom cowboy hat. And so this is the one that I picked out. And if you missed it earlier, I've got a black one as well. So anyway, maybe I'll get into the habit of wearing my my Imus in the morning hat. I kind of like that nickname, Jason Anderson. Appreciate that. Travis Hart says the visitor side is like a bunch of sardines in a can. Well, it can be, especially in sold out games. You know, when Lowndes goes over there, I suspect when Colquitt County goes over there, that a lot of fans are just packed in there like sardines. I think that's what you were referring to. So anyway, I kind of hope they build a new stadium. It looks like they're building their new multi-purpose indoor practice facility. Greg Manning says the ghosts were dug up when they renovated the stadium. Time to move on. You might be right. LG, I'll send the link on the new coach. Absolutely. Thanks for doing that, Coach Trainer. I appreciate you tuning in each and every week. Guys, that's going to do it for our show tonight. Wanted to get into a little bit of the college football talk because it is spring season. Maybe we'll get into that next week because there's supposed to be a quarterback competition at the University of Georgia between Carson Beck and Brock Vandegrift. Now, is there going to be a quarterback competition at Lowndes High School? Is it going to be Marvis Parrish? Is it going to be one of the other quarterbacks? So we'll just have to see. I'm assuming that Marvis Parrish is probably going to get the nod as a starter and force the other two. Is it other two or the other quarterback candidates to beat him out of that job? So I'm assuming that Marvis Parrish is probably going to be the starter going into at least spring practice. So we'll just have to wait and see. So anyway, that's going to do it for our show tonight, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for all of your support and appreciate your friendship. Thank you so much. Y'all have a good night. God bless you and go Vikings.